34 years. That's how long it's been since my father passed away from colon cancer. I was 31 and a resident in psychiatry at UTMB in Galveston, where he happened to be hospitalized. I was so grateful because we had a pretty bad scare about 2 weeks before his death, where we thought we had lost him. It made it very clear that time was short and that anything that needed to be said could be. I got to see him every day for those last couple of weeks and had many conversations that allowed me to feel a sense of closure, understanding some things about the dynamic between my father and I that had troubled me in the past. He lost his own father when he was only 12 years old. And I remember well, when we were growing up, him making the statement, "I never really had a father." And he used that as a rationale or an excuse for not showing up as a dad at certain moments in our childhood. Once I had children of my own, and by the time of his death I had 2 boys and a third one the year after, I realized that if I died when my children were 12, I would certainly want them to remember the moments of parenting that had passed, the moments of connection, the good times that we'd had on vacation and at bedtime. And so it occurred to me that my dad's view of himself as a dad was fundamentally broken. And his view of himself as inadequate over time colored the way I saw him as a father as well. You know, in the Old Testament, God's intention was to bring his people, the Israelites, from bondage in Egypt to a new life in the Promised Land. He intended to bring them across the wilderness through the Jordan River into a land flowing with milk and honey. I believe that's his intention for all of us. But some of us do what the Israelites did. We get to the verge of something fresh in our lives, but we hold back because of our view of ourselves. It turns out that Moses sent 12 spies into the land to scope it out before entering. And sure enough, they came back with glowing reports. It's an awesome place. Luscious fruit, huge productivity, beautiful landscapes, truly a land flowing with milk and honey. But the spies also came back with a report of giants. There are giants in the land. And they said something fascinating. Scripture tells us that these spies, 10 of them, excluding Joshua and Caleb, said, "We were like grasshoppers in our eyes, and we became so in theirs." It's an interesting progression that first they saw themselves as small and inadequate, and later the inhabitants of that good land saw them in the same way. We must be careful about how we see ourselves, because our view of ourselves can be empowering or very limiting. Do you see yourself as a grasshopper or a giant killer? Do you believe that God will give you the good things He has in store for you if you trust Him? Is it risky? Yes. Is it scary? Of course. But taking new ground is what God has given you. He wants you to enter into the abundant life, life to the full. The promised land for you and me is awaiting us anytime we step into the unknown by trusting God to do something He asks of us. Don't let your view of yourself color the way that you are seen by others. Don't let your self-rejection keep you from accepting the good that God has for you. He is with you. And if He asks you to take some new ground, He will give you the power to do it. He was unhappy with the Israelites when they pulled back from that fresh possibility. But the writer of Hebrews tells us we are not of those who pull back, but of those who press in because of our faith, because of our trust in God. Not necessarily because we are so great or we are so big, but because He is great, He is big, and He calls us to trust Him as we move forward in faith.